Welcome to another episode of the STR Sisterhood. I'm your host, Stacey St. John, and I am so excited to be spending some time with you today. Now, before we jump into this episode, you know it, I want to share a quote with you, and it says, "Doubt is a killer. You just have to know who you are and what you stand for." And I think those are such incredible words of wisdom that came from Jennifer Lopez. Now, in this episode, I am sitting down with Sandy Lee, and Sandy is sharing with us about her journey and how she retired herself with just 4 properties. I cannot wait for you to meet her. So without further ado, let's jump into my conversation with Sandy. Okay, friends, today we are here with Sandy Lee, and we are going to be talking all about her short-term rental journey. Sandy, before we jump in, just wanted to say thanks so much for being here.
Well, thanks so much for having me. I am so excited. I'm a bit of a fangirl, so I'm excited to be here.
Absolutely. Well, it's so fun to hear your story because I would love to find out the details, first and foremost, about how you got started in the short-term rental industry. I have a feeling it's maybe a little bit similar to mine.
Well, so yeah, how I got started is sort of going back to the beginning. Well, I mean, I think I have to tell you even before that is that I owe you a big debt of gratitude. My last short-term rental is directly because of you. We'll get back to that later, but I bought it from a girl in the female short-term rental group. So anyway, it's not directly off the market, just from a comment in the short-term rental group. So anyway, just really fun stuff, girl power. I'm so excited about all of that. So how I got started, 30-year career in oil and gas, engineering and construction in Houston. Just a wonderful life, single mom of one son who is now 24. We just had the greatest time, a total male-dominated career, but I loved every minute of it. Very hard hat driven in the field a lot of my career, and had a wonderful time. When my son went off to college, he went to college in Colorado. We were big skiers, big outdoor people, and he just wanted to be close to the mountains. And sort of tongue-in-cheek, all the time, he would say, "Mom, we need a ski condo. Mom, we need a ski condo." Just sort of over and over again for the first 2 years he was in college. "Mom, we need a ski condo." And over and over again, I would say, "We are not those people. We are not those people, son. We are not those people." Well, so in the meantime, I was running most of our service departments at my company, which was great, wonderful opportunity. But somewhere during that time period, they asked me to take a total left turn and run our private equity arm, which you might see where this is going. So I started learning the financials of the business and learning how to invest very differently, getting a real appreciation for money. I didn't know what I was doing at all. So I took all of this training at Columbia, learned financial modeling, learned about investing in a new, different way. And whoa, maybe we are those kinds of people, son. Maybe this will pay for itself. So all of a sudden, we became those kinds of people. Boom, ski condo. I'm in the short-term rental game. So that's how it all started for me, really kind of backed into it in an odd way. And my son got his way after all.
Isn't that funny? So I was going to say, I got into real estate investing because of my son who had moved off to college. But instead of living in the condo that we purchased for him to reside in, right after we closed on that condo, he was like, "Hey, Mom, Dad, I've decided I'm not ready to move. And so I'm just going to take their online program instead." And as you might imagine, we had a few choice words in the beginning.
Right.
But as it turns out, it was the best move that we could have ever made because it was our first foray into real estate investing. We very quickly, turned it around, and it was a long-term rental. But we discovered, oh, wow, hey, we can make money at this real estate thing. Right. And so it was a blessing in disguise. Absolutely.
I think as women, we're very good at the pivot we can make this work. There's something great we can come out of this, right? Finding the positive in every situation, I think, is something we're inherently very good at.
Absolutely. Now, I heard you say that early on when your son was suggesting perhaps you buy a ski condo, that you said, we're not those kind of people.
Right.
Tell me more about what that meant to you. What did those people
And I think it felt lavish. It felt like a lot to go out and buy multiple properties, to be out there buying lots of properties for us to go vacation in, especially as a single mom, right? But boy, the power of going and buying a home on my own as a single woman, I've kind of come around on that. It sure feels good to sign those papers on my own. It feels pretty great. It feels pretty great.
Now tell me a little bit about after buying that first ski condo, now you have a portfolio, correct me if I'm wrong, of 4 different properties in 4 different locations. Talk to me about that evolution.
That's right. So it's not a huge portfolio. It's only 4, but they're 4 pretty large properties in 4 completely different states. So kind of the total pivot from me telling you we're not those kind of people. Now, boy, are we those kinds of people, right? So I decided, okay, so maybe I could turn this into a retirement gig, and this could be what fuels my retirement. And it is now. So I have properties in Steamboat, Colorado, in Orange Beach, Alabama, in the Hill Country in Texas, and then one in Mars Hill, North Carolina, which is all thanks to you, that I bought off market from the female short-term rental group and on Facebook. It was such a cool story. Elizabeth Watts, who's in that group, said, we don't think we're really mountain people. We think we're beach people. So we're thinking about selling our place. That's what she said on a comment. And I said, I'm mountain people. Tell me about your place. A month later, I was at her cabin up on the top of a ski mountain, and there was a group coming in redoing the ski mountain there near Asheville. And I was like, this is a great buy. I'm going to jump in before the ski mountain is done and get in early. And so anyway, I have these 4 properties, and my vision was, what if I could vacation at these properties in the off season when they weren't making much money, and then have them do their job for me in the on season. And that would be a great way to retire. Have them fill my retirement, but then also do their job for me, cash flow, bring in just enough that I could retire comfortably. And that's been a really great way to do it. I'm really enjoying it.
I love that so much. And I love that you have included your personal desires into this business plan, shall we say, because so often, I see people investing in real estate, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with simply investing for the numbers. If that is your goal, that's totally fine. Absolutely nothing wrong with it. One of the things that I love about what I do is I have a real estate business that's integrated with a life that I love. Right. I love the beach, right? Yes. And so having the opportunity to go, take tax-free trips to the beach. Oh, darn, somebody's got to go check on my properties, But it really, really is wonderful because it allows me to have a real estate investment that also integrates with bringing me joy, right?
Absolutely.
And I love that you've done the same.
And that's what it's really all about. When I was in my former career, I did a lot of Covey training for our company. And a big part of that was putting together your own personal mission statement. And I still do that. I still update my own personal mission statement a couple times every few years, right? So I think it's really important to figure out who you are, what you want from life, put that together, and then make it happen, right? And it's okay for that to be whatever you want. Like you said, if it's an investment for you and your goals are totally separate from real estate, great. If you're just trying to diversify your portfolio, great. But if it's more for you, figure out what you love and then go figure out a way to get it done, right? That's what it's all about in life.
Absolutely. You might know, I love signs. I have signs all around me. And I have a sign in my office that says, don't wait for opportunity, create it. Right. And I think you're very much aligned to the same type of thinking. And I love that you have a personal mission statement. I think it's so important to, again, have a vision for your future, what you want, and reverse engineer that, go after it and create those opportunities to make it happen.
Yep. Reverse engineer is exactly the right phrase for that. And it can change. It's okay if it changes with your life, because your life will change, right? So it's okay if it changes along with it.
Amen. Now, you retired thanks to these 4 properties. I'm curious, what mindset shifts did you have to make? From early on when you were thinking we're not those type of people to, hey, okay, we are those type of people. What evolution did you have to have in shifting your mindset to feel good about retiring at age 55?
I haven't stopped my zest for learning. So the mindset shift isn't that much for me. I don't think you have to change who you are to retire. As long as you just shift what you're doing to something else, right? Even though I don't go to a 9 to 5 every day, I will spend the rest of my life learning in some way. Right. So I spent the first couple of years traveling like crazy. I had never really spent much time in Europe. We spent a lot of time traveling around Europe and trying to learn about it. We're about to go to Australia and New Zealand for a long time. This business is pretty incredible for letting you work from anywhere, right? As long as you have internet, you can work in this business from anywhere that you are, right? So there's a great flexibility that comes with real estate investing. So that was the first part of the mindset shift for me. And then I sort of realized there's a lot of overlap between my old career and this career. There's the operations part, the financial modeling part. There's even the leadership part, the learning part, the operations part is huge. Project management, what you need to do to sort of run this business is so similar that I started letting that all clunk around in my mind. And I started figuring, maybe I should do something more. So I'm starting to put together something new. We're actually launching this week. I'm going to put out a financial model that people can buy, and then a whole masterclass as well on how to run a successful short-term rental business for sort of the newer boutique investors who might want to run something similar to what I do. So
sure.
1 or 2 short-term rentals 10 or 15 years before they're leaving their job, and what that might be able to do financially for them. So something like that. It's just like use your skills. If you're a good teacher, if you were a leader in your job, keep using those as you go through your life for what they might be able to do for you. Never stop learning is sort of the thing that I will always do.
Amen. Amen. I am a huge proponent of not only continuous learning, but also continuous improvement, right? I think the minute that we stop learning and stop improving, and I've talked about this in other scenarios as well, where we begin to stay static, we are very quickly going to, find ourselves totally outside of best practices, outside of the market, because as we stay static and everyone else continues to move up, that delta becomes larger and larger and larger. So I love that your zest for learning has stayed the same. And you know it as much as I do in this business, like you can learn stuff every day through experiences, through what other people are doing, heck, through all the changes with the OTAs happening all the time.
Yep. And AI, it's a totally different business than it was 5 years ago, totally different than it was 15 years ago. So you've got to keep learning or you're paced out, right? So, and that makes it fun, I think. I think that makes it really great.
Absolutely. Now, the other thing that you just mentioned a moment ago that I love, that I actually haven't heard other people talk about besides me, so I'm like, ooh, I want to dig into this, is leadership. Because a lot of people assume, Well, if I have 1, 2, 3, or 4 properties, I need to know how to operate my short-term rentals. I need to know how to welcome guests and do all the day-to-day things. But very few people recognize the importance of leadership. I want to just ask you a little bit about that and ask you what you've brought over from your corporate experience with respect to leadership and how you've integrated that into your business.
Yeah, I think this is such an important skill set for anyone who owns any business, no matter how small it is. People are your business, no matter how tiny your business is, especially with the fact that I have 4 properties in 4 different states. I'm not there. My cleaner is the most important person in my business. She, he, they are the only person that touches my guest in a way that is super meaningful, and my handyman to a point. But it is so important that I value them, that I show them that they matter, that I thank them, that I lift them up. And I think so many people, unfortunately, complain or put an emphasis on this needs to be fixed, this needs to be that. Here's the list of what's wrong. And I think it's so super important to put the emphasis on what's right, on what the guests pointed out that was wonderful. I've gotten such great reviews. I honestly think a big part of that is because A, I've got the right people and I pay them a little bit more, but B, because I tell them all the time how much I appreciate them, how much they've done a great job, what the guests have said about how clean the place was. I try to make sure they're never afraid to get a text from me. It's very, very important that they know that I am on their side. I am on their team. If we have a problem, I want to make sure that they know they're first. The guest is always going to be important, but my relationship with my team is first, right? So I just think people maybe don't, if they haven't run a business, they may not know that. And that's okay. But I think that's really important to teach people when you're mentoring in this business.
Absolutely. And, oftentimes we talk about this, when we're talking shop, shall we say, that how critically important our cleaners are. But I think what you just discussed is so incredibly critical for folks to realize. Yes, we realize our cleaners are important, but are we realizing how important we are in making our cleaners successful? Right?
Like, absolutely, kind of all they get, right? Like we're their boss, right? We're super important to them. They're trying to make us happy. We're the only feedback they get, right? Like it's just important to make people feel important and seen and know that their work is really important. So don't treat them just like an employee. Treat them like human beings. It's so important, right?
Yes.
So I just think it really matters.
I also think, and I'd love to hear how you approach your relationships with your cleaning teams, but I believe in the importance of having regular discussions with them, providing feedback in real time if there is a challenge. But also, beyond that, getting to know them as people. Understanding what their family life is about. It doesn't mean that you have to ask weird questions, or ask questions that get you in a predicament because, as an employer, even if you're hiring a contractor, you want to be careful not to ask certain things, but really help them feel like, again, that they are an integral part of your business and you want to know them deeper than, hey, when are you available to clean? Right?
Absolutely.
How are your kids doing? How's your move going?
Right.
Your son was sick last week. Is he okay? All those things go a long way.
And so much of that is just listening to what they tell you, right? Because they'll tell you things and then it's just asking follow-up questions, right? And just showing them that you care.
I don't know about you, but in my day-to-day, things can become very hectic very quickly.
Absolutely.
And sometimes those little follow-ups are more difficult, not because we don't have a desire to follow up and make sure their son is okay, but perhaps with everything going on in our calendars, it just kind of slips through the cracks. And so just a quick tidbit, time block 15 minutes on your calendar, maybe every Wednesday morning or, whenever it's convenient for you. And just say, check in, send your people a text. Hey, how you doing? Can I help you in any way? How's your aunt doing? I know she was, in the hospital last week, but you can build time in your calendar, even if it's just 5, 10, or 15 minutes, and that can go a very long way.
That's a really good idea. I also use the notes section in my contact to remember those tidbits about people that I might not remember otherwise.
Love that. Love that. Okay, next question I have for you is actually about the complexities of operating in 4 different locations. As we all know, finding the right people is so critically important. And once you've found them, there are some complexities in managing remotely. Talk to me a little bit about how you found your teams in each location and maybe any, again, additional hoops you've had to jump through by operating in different locales.
Well, so 2 were new builds and 2 I bought from other operators. So the 2 that I bought from other operators, I inherited a team. And so that was a little bit easier. And I've stuck with those teams in both places and they've been great. The 2 that were new builds, I've changed teams once and the second time I've gotten it right? So it's not always great the first time. And I think it's okay to admit defeat and then make a change. I think there are benefits sometimes to using a service and benefits sometimes to using an individual. And with the service, you've always got a backup in place. With an individual, you may have someone that cares a little bit more. But I think it's okay to admit defeat and know that you have to change. But having a good relationship to me has really been the important part. And with 4 different locations, you're just checking in more with more different people. It can test the most adept multitasker for sure. So it's hard. But when a hurricane hits, only one of my properties is out, not all 4 of them. So there's pros and cons, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, the other thing too is when you mention accept defeat, sometimes that defeat, again, is a blessing. So one of the things that very candidly I will share is that I have been through a lot of cleaners because I have incredibly high standards. And when people, it's not so much since I brought cleaning in-house, which I did earlier this year, but when I was working with third-party cleaners, a lot of folks would go, well, nobody else finds issue with my cleaning. We actually send in inspectors after the cleaners, right? And so it was early on, it was difficult to find people who were as committed to quality in execution as they said in the upfront interview.
Yeah.
People will say anything.
They will.
But the proof is in the pudding, right? And so I think even if you find yourself not necessarily nailing the right cleaner the first time around, if it takes time 2, 3, 4, or 5, I would just encourage listeners not to give up on their standards. What are your thoughts on that?
I totally agree. I love my 4 cleaners so much and I am holding tight, right? Like, please don't go anywhere. Yeah. I just get the greatest comments from my people and it does feel like they're just wonderful humans. I don't know how I've gotten so lucky right now. So I'm just holding tight to these guys right now.
I love it. Now, again, I just want to go back to the operating in 4 different states. We might have someone listening or watching that says, oh gosh, that sounds like it's a lot. Like managing from afar seems difficult. What say you for someone who may be afraid to buy, in a location that's not in their backyard? What advice would you give to them?
So while you're still working full time, and while I was still working full time, I did 2 from afar. And I did not think it was too bad at all. It was maybe 5 hours a week, something like that. Nate, you should take time to go visit your properties a couple times a year at least and spend a few days there. it also takes a good 2 weeks to set a property up, and that's working full time, 24/7. You got to be really committed to get it done in 2 weeks, schedule all those deliveries, get it done perfectly, get some help, right? So it takes some time to set a property up. It's not the easiest thing to manage from afar, but there are a lot of benefits to it. You can pick the best market. You can maybe have a good vacation home for your family if that's your goal, but you can also get the best profits instead of maybe your home market isn't the best for the numbers, right? So there are a lot of good reasons to pick a market that maybe isn't where you live. Yeah. So, I'm a fan. I think it's an okay thing to do.
I am as well. As you know, I mean, the majority of my portfolio is about 10 hours away from where I live. And the thing that I also believe that it offers tremendous benefit is it forces you to operate like a true business from the get-go. Absolutely. So often I hear people say, well, I just have to run over to my property this afternoon, or I was in my property this morning. I have to drive 10 hours to go visit my properties, right? And so by nature, I don't go visit on a day-to-day basis.
Right.
And so I think that's a tremendous benefit. Do you agree? Yeah,
I do. You've got to be organized. Your operations manual is all set. You know exactly what's going to happen and when. I do. I agree. Your restocking is all set. You know what you're doing. I think it forces a level of organization that forces you to operate like a business. Totally agree.
Yep. Okay, I want to get into some of the financials and metrics because I know that this is something that you are passionate about. I love coming across another data nerd like I am.
Yes.
I love it so much. I'm curious, from your vantage point, what are some of the most important metrics that folks should be looking at prior to purchasing? What are your thoughts on that?
So for me, the engineering background and then looking at the financial modeling piece that I started learning, I think there's 5 biggies. I think there's cash flow is really important. And then I don't even have to go through all 5. The really most important one is the annualized rate of return. You've got to have some sort of number that you can compare to another investment. So I love an annualized rate of return that you could compare to the stock market or to a bond or to even a savings account. So you can do that by looking at sort of a 10-year spread of what might this make if you looked at your cumulative income that you would get on the property with mortgage pay down, with the appreciation in the market, plus the cash flow on the property. And then you divide that by your total that you've invested in the property and the number of years. And you'd get sort of what you would make on that property as a return. And you can compare that to what you would make in the stock market. So I love that as a good number to decide if you want to invest in a property.
Yeah. That's a really interesting approach. I love that as well. Talk to me about what metrics you feel like are most important to track after you've already purchased the investment.
So once you're in, I think you ought to be looking at whether you're doing better or worse than the last year. I think you need to be looking at your year-on-year metrics regularly to see whether you need to be making tweaks in your property. I also think you need to be comparing yourself to the market around you, right? Like, are you doing better or worse than your competition? And so much of that data is pretty regularly available out there. Yeah. So keeping that available and readily available to yourself, I think, is really important.
Absolutely. One of the things that I do in my business is I have dashboards set up internally for each property. And I do this through key data. So I can look at how each of my individual properties are comparing against the comps. The thing that I love personally about key data is that it is first party data. So for anyone listening, first party data is direct from the source. So as a property manager, I actually am subscribing into this service where I look at anonymized data from other property managers. And then they take my data, they remove anything contributing that metric to me, but they put my data into the pool, shall we say.
Right.
So it's wonderful because I get first party data that shows me how I am trending on booked revenue, not, not what my pricing is, on unbooked revenue or unbooked nights, but on booked revenue, how I'm comping against the market. And I'm paying attention to RevPAR. That is what I look at on a weekly basis. And I utilize that then to have informed meetings with my revenue manager every week saying, hey, talk to me about this property. We're trending down here. What do we need to do? I'm just curious how you're paying attention to data like that on a regular basis. Do you have any practices that you like to follow?
Absolutely. I think it's so important to pay attention to that kind of data. I think a good example is that I just did a whole lesson for this new STR jumpstart that I'm putting together on my Orange Beach property, because as you know firsthand, we're struggling a little bit in the beach properties along the Gulf Coast. We've been seeing lower RevPARs, we've been seeing lower occupancies for a few years down there. So as I started seeing this, the occupancies going down, I was in a new build neighborhood where I was one of the first 7 or so houses. So everybody starts filling in around me. My first year occupancy was only 50%, 52%, pretty low. And my revenue was about 96,000, something like that. Well, I knew that I needed to make a big switch for that next year, full year, to be able to keep the same revenue, because all of a sudden there were a million houses around me, right? So I did make a big pivot. I lowered my minimum nightly rate. I really looked at filling up those nights, and I got my occupancy up in the 70-something% range. My revenue will be just over what it was the year before, but my occupancy way higher. And I only was able to do that by really paying attention to the data, exactly as you said, right? So same exact thing. If you don't pay attention, you'll find yourself way behind the 8 ball, way too late. And I would have found myself without the revenue that I needed.
Yeah, absolutely. And keep in mind, the RevPAR is a combination between your occupancy, your adjusted paid occupancy, and your average daily rate. What I think so many people get hung up on is the daily rate, right? And they're not paying attention to the occupancy and how they're trending there. So
that's right. And this thing about ego pricing, I think it's important not to... I think it's really easy to get caught up in, I'm not going to rent my property out for that low of a price. Well, I don't think we're in that kind of a market right now. I think you've got to, if you're treating it as a true business, I think you've got to really think about, do I want the revenue or do I not want the revenue? Because renting my very nice beach property out for $176 a night is better than $0 a night. So I've gotten there. In my fall and winter nights, I'm at a pretty low rate. And the guests have been really wonderful. They're appreciative of getting to have the property. So I haven't experienced the bad guest thing that people talk about at all. So it's been fine. And my revenues are back up. So I'm happy.
Yeah.
And my cleaners are making more money. So they're happy too.
That's right. The other thing too, if anyone is listening and is doing co-hosting or property management, it may not be where we as the co-hosts or property managers have the ego pricing mentality. It could be our owners. And so keeping our owners informed on what is happening in the market is so important as well.
Yes. Educating them on, get your ego out of it. This is really important. In fact, that's how I got here. I hired a revenue manager this year for the first time. And that's how I got to this point. They said, get your ego out of it, Sandy. That's how I got here. I figured out that I'm bad at the daily pricing, and I got my ego out of it. I hired a revenue manager.
I love it. That's so good. It's so good. And, it's important to have people in your business that, they are operating in their genius zones. I am not a revenue manager. Like I can have an informed discussion and ask questions and provide suggestions. But, I think it's so important that we've got the right people on our teams that are operating in their genius zones, and it frees up our time as well.
Exactly right. That's how I leveled up over the last year, is to figure out what I was really bad at.
Yeah. I love it. Okay. So I want to ask you, what is lighting you up most right now about the STR space? Where do you see the biggest opportunities for folks? And how are you fulfilling those opportunities?
I want to see some new people getting into STRs. I want to see some new excitement around it. I think there's been too much of a cooling off. I think people have been scared of it for a little while. And I want to see people in their 30s and 40s thinking long term. Let's stop with the get rich quick. And I would love to see people thinking about, if I invested some of my retirement money now, what would it look like in 15 years? And we can show them how to do that with some financial modeling, with some education. That's what I would love to see in the STR space right now.
That's so good. So good. All right, Sandy, I want to move to the lightning round. Okay. So I'm going to ask you to answer these questions with the very first thing that comes to mind.
Okay.
First question is, where is your favorite place to vacation?
Oh, it's kind of odd. I love Cozumel, Mexico. I love to scuba dive. It's just kind of warm. It's a little sleepy island. You've got to stay away from the cruise ships, but we love to go to the back of the island. There's not even electricity there. You can go back there. There's a great little tequila factory. It's a pretty wonderful little place.
So Cozumel, I've been to several times, and it is leaving my brain at the moment, but there is this incredible place where you can go swimming with the stingrays. Have you done it?
I haven't done the
Cielo. Lo Cielo is what it's called.
Oh, okay. I have not done that. I've swum with the sharks there, which was so dumb. I'm never doing that again.
Yeah, I'm never doing sharks, girl. Okay,
never again.
It was so fun. We went there. We had done an excursion and we were out doing like snorkeling, but they took us to this place called Lo Cielo, and we were getting off the boat, and there are these massive things in the water. And I thought they were huge rocks, but then I realized that these rocks were moving, right? And I'm like, what is that? And they were stingrays. And I mean, it was the most magical thing ever. They just, 6 feet, 8 feet wide. They would swim right up next to you. It was incredible.
Well, that's also dangerous. So I'm glad you're okay.
Well, it's true. They were very nice that day, so I appreciated that.
Good.
It could have been the tequila I had before I got off the boat, though.
Okay. Yeah, sure.
All right. What's one place you've never been that you want to visit?
Well, so I've never been to either Australia or New Zealand, and I'm going in January and February. So I'm so excited to do all of that on a long cruise, 3 weeks away from home. It's going to be a little crazy, but I'm excited about it.
Wow, that will be incredible. Now, will you leave from the US and cruise all the way there?
No, not quite that. Not quite that adventurous. We're flying into Sydney and then cruising around New Zealand, and then flying back from New Zealand, going with boyfriend and brother and sister-in-law. So it's going to be fun.
Wow.
Yeah,
that sounds incredible. Well, I'd like to see pictures after you're back.
It will be great.
All right, next question. What's one thing you know now that you wish you knew when you were starting out in the world of short-term rentals?
Oh, that's kind of a tough one. I can't even think of anything because I think I just give myself so much forgiveness as I go along. It's okay to not know all the things. You learn as you go along, and you educate yourself every day, and you learn as I don't tend to think that way. So I think there's just not something like that.
That's interesting. And that's the first time anyone's ever given me that answer. So
I'm such a just, it's okay to live in the moment kind of life girl.
Yeah. Okay. Next question. What's the best piece of advice you've ever been given?
Oh, invest early and save your money. Did I do it? Maybe not so well, but I started late and I got a good catch up on it.
Yeah. That's good.
And my son's doing it really well because he's learned from the best, right?
Amazing. I think that's one of the biggest benefits that we can do as parents is, help our kids understand the opportunities ahead of them when they invest early on.
Yes.
Because nobody showed me that, right? I just kind of stumbled into real estate investing. But boy, oh boy, had I started it earlier, oh my goodness.
Absolutely. My son and the windfall he's going to get if we hold on to these properties, he's going to be a happy boy.
There
He
you
just wants
go.
that ski condo. That's all he wants, right?
That's fun. Well, pretty soon he'll buy one of his own, maybe.
Maybe so.
There you go. All right. Last question. What's one thing and or person that you're grateful for today?
Oh gosh, I am so grateful for my son, which may seem obvious, but this one is very specific. He is taking care of my two crazy little dogs while I go on a Caribbean cruise next week. I leave on Saturday for a fun, loving little cruise, and he's going to take care of my dogs for me.
Oh, now tell me about where you're visiting in the Caribbean.
So we leave from Miami on Saturday, and we are going, hopefully it's all okay with the hurricane, but we're going to St. Thomas and St. Martin and Nassau, which we've been to a million times, but we've never seen the swimming pigs. So I'm excited to see the swimming pigs in Nassau.
I have never seen the swimming pigs. I did not know that they existed. So
There is an island where there are a bunch of wild swimming pigs. So this is something I must see in retirement.
Wow.
Doesn't this seem like something you must see? So we're going to see the swimming pigs.
And I am hopeful, like you mentioned, that everything is A-okay, obviously, with the islands. I did see, obviously, by the time this gets released, it's well after the recording, but we're recording this the end of October, and Jamaica was just hit really badly, right?
Yes. Yeah. Yes. It's going to be hard there. Saw some news this morning. It's going to be bad for a while.
Yeah.
Prayers for them.
Sandy, if folks want to learn more about you, what is the best place for them to find you online?
So they can find my socials at Distilled Destinations, either on Facebook or on Insta. And then if they want to see my new website, it's strjumpstart.com.
Amazing. And we will provide links in the show notes as well. This has been so fun. Thank you so much for being here.
Agreed. And like I said, fangirl, and thank you for my last property because you are directly responsible. So
hey, I'm glad I could help.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for all that you do for the community. Seriously, it's really important work and I appreciate it.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey girl, before you go, grab your calendar and block out February 4th, 5th, and 6th, 2026. Why? Because those are the dates of the Short-Term Rental Virtual Summit for Women. Let me tell you, this year is going to be better than ever, and we've got some amazing surprises lined up for you. Stay tuned for more details, but in the meantime, save the dates, February 4th, 5th, and 6th, 2026, and I can't wait to see you there.